live from Ohio University, you're watching WOUB2, television for Athens County.
President Obama lays out the future of the country in his State of the Union address. We've got the Athens reaction.
The Athens bike path may be getting another extension. Find out where it will be heading this time.
And volunteers figure out the homeless count across Athens County. All this and more coming up on Athens Midday.
President Obama sets the stage for his administration's plan to unite the country. Good afternoon, I'm Connor Kiesel.
And I'm Emily Hanford. We have the complete coverage of the President's address, including local reaction to the President's message to the Union. The President unleashed his administration's plan for the future on Capitol Hill last night. His goals include increased spending for education, clean air technology, and a nationwide railway, noting that America lost its lead in transportation technology. The President also proposed a 5-year spending freeze for some domestic programs to reduce the deficit.
Would reduce the deficit by more than $400 billion over the next decade, and will bring discretionary spending to the lowest share of our economy since Dwight Eisenhower was president.
The President also emphasized the need for a bipartisan effort to create more jobs at home and better Social Security.
We must do it without putting at risk current retirees, the most vulnerable, or people with disabilities, without slashing benefits for future generations, and without subjecting Americans' guaranteed retirement income to the whims of the stock market.
Republicans and Democrats reacted to the President's proposals. Republicans questioned Mr. Obama's signing of certain laws during the past 2 years. In the Republican response, Congressman Paul Ryan said some laws called for an increase of government spending when more than 9% of the Americans remain on unemployment.
The facts are clear. Since taking office, President Obama has signed into law spending increases of nearly 25% for domestic government agencies, an 84% increase when you include the failed stimulus.
Both Republicans and Democrats recognized the victims of the shootings in Arizona at last night's speech. They wore black and white ribbons and left an empty seat in the chamber for Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. She watched the speech from a Houston hospital, where she's been in intensive care since Friday. Today, Giffords will move to a rehab facility in that same hospital. At last night's speech, Republican and Democratic congressmen sat together, typically with other members from their states. Usually, senators and representatives are divided in the House chamber by party. Local Democrats and students gathered at Walter Hall last night to watch the President's State of the Union address. Athens Midday reporter Heather Moore went to the watch party to see how Athens viewers reacted to the speech.
The State of the Union Party was hosted by Organizing for America, an organization funded by the Democratic National Committee. Local politicians joined college Democrats and some other students to watch. They support President Obama's goals, but would like to have had more details on how to get there.
It was there in the news.
And they all deserve the chance to be fulfilled.
I think anytime you really hear any politician talking about specifics on how to cut budgets, good luck on getting specifics out of them.
As long as the president follows up these lofty goals with, and is able to get Congress to work with him to make that sort of an investment, then I think we'll get there. I think it was just a very hopeful speech.
And the students watching were very enthusiastic about President Obama's speech, but of course most of them were college Democrats. Watch tonight at 5:30 on WOUB's Newswatch for more local reactions to the State of the Union address. Reporting live from the Athens Midday Newsroom, I'm Heather Moore.
Athens City and a number of other area schools are closed today because of icy conditions. Snowplows and salt trucks are treating the roads. Students get yet another day off because of this frigid weather. As the snow falls, it makes it become more difficult for motorists, particularly on hills and overpasses. Kurt Mayle, the City of Athens Street Maintenance Advisor, has advice on driving in this weather.
Standard push the clutch in, take power off the drivetrain. That way, the wheel's not pushing the car.
To see current traffic and weather updates, go to athensroad.com. The search for a new federal hawking superintendent is coming to a close. The final 3 candidates offered public statements last night in a meeting open to the public. Athens MidDay reporter Liz McKinnon is live in the newsroom. Liz, the successful candidate will be facing some financial challenges.
That's right. Federal Hawking School District has been in fiscal emergency for almost 4 years. All 3 candidates applying for this position are looking to get out of this financial crisis. Each has a plan for the district. All are hoping to make a change. The candidates for the superintendent of Federal Hawking School District were interviewed a final time during last night's meeting. Principal Dan Wood, one of the candidates, says he plans to consolidate jobs to save money.
Well, I'm applying with a recommendation to the board that they create a different position, and it would be a superintendent/principal. So.
Science and math teacher Sonia White is taking a different approach.
Details, details, details.
Something that White thinks is key to improving the system's finances.
You have to have an ongoing accounting of what's going on with your finances. You have to keep an eye on it and not wait for the moment you're in an emergency.
Candidate John Rist, a teacher at Federal Hawking High School, brings a different idea to the table.
We have to keep the balanced budget so we're not ever get it back in fiscal emergency again. The other plan would be to improve test scores, because our test scores in some buildings are pretty low.
This room was open for any of the public to come for tonight's meeting. Despite the lack of attendance, the candidates were not discouraged.
I really don't believe that it's a sign that no one cares. I truly do not.
I think people are busy, and I think people trust the board members.
As for the outcome of who is selected, parents say it is a good group.
I think whoever they choose out of the 3 people, I think the other 2 will work well with that person because.
The school board is expected to select a new superintendent on February 3rd. Reporting for Athens MidDay, I'm Liz McKinnon.
If you missed the meeting and want to hear extended comments from FedHawk superintendent candidates, visit our website at athensmidday.com.
2 Ohio University students have to pay for classes they said didn't meet their expectations. Central Ohioans Joshua and Leeson Golden sued the school claiming 2 classes they took didn't meet the description and syllabus. Now, in a settlement, they've agreed to pay more than $4,000 in tuition. The university had countersued for more than $9,000 after the Goldens filed the lawsuit last year. OU denied claims that an instructor didn't show up and equipment failed, among other problems listed in the lawsuit. Counting the homeless in Athens County. The federal government set yesterday as the day for local communities to find out how many people don't have homes. In Athens County, no one was canvassing for the homeless. Instead, volunteers at organizations like Integrated Services of Appalachian, Ohio made phone calls. They were calling homeless shelters, hospitals, and other organizations in the area to find out how many homeless are staying there. The federal definition of homelessness leaves out some people.
So somebody who maybe is doubled or tripled up or staying with, temporarily staying with a family member wouldn't necessarily be, be counted in that 25 as homeless. Maybe they don't have the resources and don't, I like to say they're precariously perched.
The federal government mandates the count every 2 years. And we're counting the unemployed in Athens County as well. New numbers out today show the jobless rate in the county held steady in December, but was down from a year ago. Unemployment was at 9% in Athens County in December, but dropped to about 8% last month. Athens County is below the state's rate. About 9% of Ohioans were out of a job in December. The numbers show there were about 2,600 people unemployed in Athens County at the end of last year.
Bike riders in Athens County will be able to pedal a bit farther now that Athens County Commission has voted to extend the bike path. But Athens MidDay reporter Brad Evan tells us the race is now against the clock. Brad?
The Athens County Regional Planning Commission has less than a week to complete a grant proposal to purchase the land for the extension, but the deadline for getting the grant money is just days away.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, good luck.
With that vote, the Athens County Commission signals its support for the bike path extension.
It may have to be in their offices by February 1st, but we'll get it in if those other pieces come together.
Those other pieces include an independent appraisal of the 13 acres to be purchased.
We're assuming that the appraisal will be close to what the county auditor has the property valued at.
The Planning Commission will ask CSX, the owners of the property, to contribute the nearly $6,000 balance for the land.
The other 25% would either come from a donation from CSX with which they could get a tax break.
The bike path is Athens County's #1 tourist attraction, and expanding it nearly 1 mile is expected to cost nearly $700,000.
The expansion will connect Chansey with the existing bike path just south of the village. Athens Bicycle Shop co-owner Peter Kotsis sees this project as good news.
You know, it's something that allows people, I think it really elevates the quality of life that you experience.
This is the first hurdle for planners before construction can begin. But County Commissioner Larry Payne is optimistic.
If everything falls into place, these things you never know, but in the past we've had a pretty good track record of receiving these.
Now construction could begin as early as next summer and only take a few months. The next phase would include connecting Athens High School in the Plains to the nearly 20-mile cross-county path. Reporting live, Brad Evans, Athens MidDay.
To see how the bike path will benefit Chansey, visit our website at www.athensmidday.com. A plea deal has finally been reached in the Athens shaken baby case.
And Russia's president takes action in response to the Moscow terror. There's a plea deal for an Athens man who was accused of shaking his 8-week-old son. 22-year-old Matthew Boyven pleaded guilty yesterday to a number of charges. Judge Michael Ward sentenced Boyven to 5 years in prison because of a history of domestic violence. Boyven had spent 11 months behind bars for a domestic charge when he pointed a loaded gun at his wife and daughter in 2009. Ward added 4 years to Boyven's sentence for violently shaking his infant son, which caused severe damages. The infant suffered with temporary blindness and brain damage. Ohio is switching its lethal injection drug from an anesthetic to one most associated with assisted suicides. A scarcity of the anesthetic caused the change. The Department of Rehabilitation and Correction says the state will use a single dose of pentobarbital. The drug is currently used to induce coma before surgeries and is related to a drug used to euthanize pets.
Ice in a gas line caused a house to explode in Fairport Harbor earlier this week. The Ohio Public Utilities Commission says the ice caused a regulator to fail, causing an explosion and fire. 15 homes and buildings were damaged, and several residents were forced to leave their homes. Most of them have returned to their houses. The agency will submit a report when the investigation is finished. At least 5 workers are dead and 16 trapped after an explosion at a coal mine in Colombia. The mine is in Sardinata, 250 miles northeast of the capital, Bogota. It's the same mine where a blast killed 32 workers in 2007. The city's mayor says rescue workers were unable to enter the mine due to a collapse. A Red Cross rescue chief says a buildup of methane gas is believed to be the cause.
Now following up on the deadly bomb blast at a Moscow airport. Russian news agencies say President Dmitry Medvedev has fired the country's transport police head following the bombing. 35 people were killed in Monday's explosion at one of the country's busiest airports. Medvedev has not yet given a reason for the firing. He has criticized the transport police for being passive. Fatal flaws in security were exposed as a result of the terrorist attack. Police violently broke up anti-government protests today in Cairo after activists protested for the second day in a row. Protesters' Facebook sites were partially blocked after they used the internet to call for fresh demonstrations. Police beat and arrested the demonstrators in downtown Cairo outside of the Journalists' Union.